Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you today. Thank you for joining us here at the Media Council of Kenya to launch what is in many ways a historic occasion for us here, because for the first time in the history of this republic, we're actually going to be giving some direct support to media houses in these very unique times. We want to thank you for tuning in, and with us, we're going to have our CEO, Mr. David Omoyo, our chair of the board, and Mr. Victor Bwire, our head of media development, and of course, the chairman of the Parliamentary Departmental Committee on Communications, Information and Innovation, the Honorable William Kisang, and finally, the permanent secretary in the State Department for Telecommunications and Broadcasting, Ms. Esther Koimet. So without further ado, at this point, I would like to call upon Mr. Victor Bwire. Mr. Victor Bwire is the head of media development and strategy at the Media Council of Kenya. Indeed, this very program is being run under his directorate. He's a man on the ground every day and has been working day and night to ensure that we launch this program. So I'm going to invite him for about 3 to 5 minutes to just give a background of this from a technical perspective and why this is so important. Mr. Bwire, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Now, once more, good morning, colleagues, and welcome to this launch. We are excited and elated at the Media Council of Kenya, led by our chairman, Bwana Maina Mwiruri, and our CEO, Omoyo, and the team that has been working on this project. Now, quickly, the program is called Media Support during COVID-19. This program largely came about when, in addition to the challenges the media generally in Kenya and journalists in particular are experiencing challenges, then March 26th, when the directive outbreak of the COVID-19, and then subsequent directives by government, among other things, the issue of working from home, the issue of curfew and the related, which then has seen escalated challenges to media. So the Media Council and other partners appealed to government through supplementary budget to consider extending support to media. Remember, Media Council has been working around the issue of the introduction of a media support diversity fund. A whole draft proposal is with the ministry for consideration and partners, so that we could see a way of introducing a media diversity fund, like other countries like Canada, like Australia, where media that especially does public interest work is supported to do this work. Now, when COVID happened and the challenges that we are having, the council and partners did appeal to government to support, in a way, media through this process. Now, because of the general support from government of Kenya, we have identified a number of radio stations, largely and TV stations and independent content producers from the 47 counties, who then will get support through 3 areas. One would be, so we have identified community, local-based stations, local-based TV stations, media support associations, including national and press clubs at account levels, and editors as mentees who would work on this project. So the first will be direct support for editorial support to media houses, especially those have been identified with messages around the issue of public health in general and COVID-19 in particular. So it will be narration, professional development of content through news stories, not through advertisements, but through news stories that will be done involving and including experts in the local areas, elected leaders, other opinion leaders, civil society, and other people, and including government messages through the Ministry of Health, which will be done by those media houses. The second will be the TV stations. Also, and again, identified, we have 92 TV stations in Kenya, but a number of them will get this support. Again, not through advertisements, but through editorial engagement, where they will be helped to develop content around COVID and public health and other related matters. Then the media support groups, including our colleagues here, Amwik, KUJ, press clubs, Tarakanidi Press Club, Nyeri Press Club, Mombasa Information Center, Kakamega, across Kenya Correspondents Association, will also be supported to help their reporters do work that they are doing. So once they are supported with these little resources, the thing is to continuously working. We are aware that some media houses have not been paying their staff even up to today, as we are saying. So this would help those staff. Then the other bit largely is the grants. These again will be grants to journalists. We already given 100, and we are targeting 200 journalist grants. They have already been announced, and people have started applying across the 47 counties. Again, stories both in local, vernacular, and English and Swahili, to do stories in whatever media house. And we don't need necessarily to say that this support from Media Council or government. You do your stories and run wherever media houses. So we have, but we'll have mentors to work with those people who will get the grant if they need editorial help and support in terms of professionalism to do good quality content. So and the trainings, we'll be also doing webinars, weekly webinars for journalists across the country on reporting health. So again, with various experts from other areas that would help journalists in expanding their interpretation analysis. Remember, access to universal health is one of the big four agenda, and how media reports that discussion around universal access to health matters a lot to shape public discussion. So there will be also webinars on how, together with National Health Insurance and others. So that will be happening. So continuous webinars and online training for journalists on reporting health. And then the other bit will be purely media monitoring, that how, as we do this work, how do we monitor the people we gave grants, the journalists who have applied, the people who have given money directly to the institutions and associations that are saying they are working, we will be monitoring. So we'll also be doing serious media monitoring of all these stations to ensure that what they are doing is professional work. So that is largely how the grant will be working. The CEO and the chairman will be mentioning, but largely as programs ourselves, we are stuck on the technical bit, providing technical support to media houses, to journalists who have received the grants, to freelancers, to anybody who is working around this issue, media monitoring, and just making sure that discussion. And also, we have set up a hotline where we'll be helping media houses get contacts. If you wanted to talk to a doctor, for example, how do we connect you to Kenya Medical Association so that you talk to the right people about the right content? So that's largely what we'll be doing, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. Indeed, you have been burning the midnight oil to get this going, and thank you for your efforts and for your entire team in the Directorate of Media Development and Strategy. To give us an even broader perspective, I'm going to invite the CEO of the Media Council of Kenya, Mr. David Omoyo, who's going to give us a background onto the thinking behind this. Sorry, there's an echo there. The thinking behind this and how we came up with this brilliant idea. Mr. Omoyo, over to you.
So thank you very much, everyone, and good morning. Welcome, Chair, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I also welcome Madam Susan Karago, the Chair of the Media Training and Development Committee of the Council. Mheshimiwa Honorable Kisang, Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on ICT, who was very instrumental in getting us this grant, and PS Esther Koimet for this. So, ladies and gentlemen, really, as we talk about this grant, I have to say that we're also excited to be part of this. It is the first time to offer this grant to community and vernacular media. Remember, for 2 years, we've been talking about a media diversity fund to support the work that we do. But the challenge of the COVID-19 has really squeezed life and sustainability out of our radio stations. So we made this very special appeal. We got good response from Parliament, led by the Honorable Kisang, who really helped us to do this. And most important is that we passionately did this because I have been a station manager in a community radio, and I've run a network of community radios and understand the challenges that we face every day, and I hope that this grant will assist us to professionalize our work, really. We are providing this grant to at least 125 community radios and not less than 25 TV stations. I want to confirm that for those who have received the form and sent it to us, you will have your money by this afternoon. So this is not a theory and all that. We have someone at the bank by 3 p.m. the money should be in. We want to fill this. Please, we urge that as you follow the protocols of the ministry, let local people speak about and advise the local communities what to do as we try to save ourselves. But most importantly, sustain jobs. Don't send people home. Don't issue a message telling Kenyans we stand with you, and in the same moment write a letter asking people to go home. Please try. The money may not be enough, but we will at least sustain for not less than a month, probably 2, others 3 or 4. Sustain the people, because the work we do is founded on the people that join us in making the information flow. This grant, I have to say, that is historic in size. It is with more than 150 beneficiary media houses and more than 200 beneficiary journalists and more than 50 mentors from the editors who are going to accompany the media houses. We are generally deploying more than 100 million shillings. And as I said, that it's money that is there and it will be available to recipients from this afternoon. The whole idea is to make sure that the media sector gets a boost as we are an essential service and we are able to talk to the people. So I want to assure everyone of the solidarity of the Media Council, that we will be part of you throughout the period. We hope that we will receive more and sustain more. I have to note that we have gotten very good support from journalists led by the Secretary General of the Journalists, Bwana Eric Oduor. We will stand there for you all the time. Please do a good job and be guaranteed that the Media Council, we will not just be carrying whips around, but also be sustaining and helping you. Thank you very much. And I want to now take this opportunity to thank the team at the Secretariat. We have been working day and night, including weekends, to get this working. I thank them for going through the paperwork to get this done, and now working to get sure that you receive the funds this afternoon. And support from the council, we really appreciate it, as I urge now the chair to take over and make some remarks. So thank you, everyone, and congratulations for receiving this grant. We hope that it will improve the lives and the work that we do.
Thank you very much, Bwana CEO. Thank you, participants. I'm glad to welcome you to this online event. And we are very happy that you've responded and stand with us as we go through a very satisfying moment to launch these grants. I can see our partners, KUJ, Eric Odur, Chair KCA, Olo Janak, and other participants. Welcome, Chair of Parliamentary Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation, Honorable Kisang. We welcome our PS, Esther Koimet, or a representative from the ministry. We want to say we are very glad that this is happening. The fact that we are all seated here in different meeting virtually from different spaces is a momentous time that we will never forget. When it is all gone, we will look back and assess what did we do for our own media industry during the COVID crisis. I think we'll have a good chapter to illustrate this. The time we managed to help struggling media houses, especially in rural areas, our own partners, the media organizations, at such a time as this. There is no other time Media Council has managed to reach out to our members, our partners, more than this, to make us stay alive together. When the virus is taking the whole world down, the media should stand, because we occupy a very important space. I also want to acknowledge the presence of our board members this morning. We are represented here by Head of Training in the board committee, Susan Karago. Please, Susan, acknowledge your presence if you are here, or I do it on your behalf.
Yes, I am.
Oh, here she
Yes,
is.
I am. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, representing our other board members who may not be here this morning with us. I would just like to emphasize that Media Council, before, during, and even after COVID, we remain committed to media development. And that's why we are very committed to seeing that media does not go down with this, even as the worst doom is being predicted. Remember that without a thriving media sector, there would be nothing to regulate, which is our core mandate. That's why we want to stand and make media stand. MCK itself, we have directly seen what is happening in the media space, in the rural areas, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in the big towns. Media houses have suffered, have been hit hard. It's not enough to wait and see what will happen. The aim of this initiative is to help the media sector to stand, and if we are not left on one leg, to stand and go through this together. Before COVID came, we have been talking about the Media Diversity Fund. All this talk was first overtaken by COVID. But when we are through with this, it will stand out as an example of what the Media Diversity Fund can do, even in other times. This is like a pilot to what the Media Diversity Fund can do. When we emerge out of this, we'll make it a reference point of what the Media Diversity Fund can do. We want to thank Chair of the Parliamentary Departmental Committee on Communication, Mr. Kisang, for the quick response we got when we appealed to be assisted to assist the media. The media is important for the functioning of democracy in a country like this. If media goes down, you know how democracy follows quickly when there is no accountability. So media is not just standing to pass COVID messaging. It is standing to remain, to sustain our country to where we had reached even before COVID. We hope the same will follow as MCK makes propositions for the Media Development Fund after the COVID crisis. We hope we will receive similar support because this needs to be sustained beyond COVID. This crisis will come and go. It will not be with us forever. Or we will learn to live with it and return to normal. So we would like media to emerge the stronger from the hard lessons that have been learned from here. And we'll still again say very grateful to the parliamentary committee that held our hand. And at this point now, I would like now to welcome Honorable Kisang to give us your remarks.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you again for the work you did for us.
Mr. Chairman, just before you yield to the Honorable Kisang, perhaps you might want to invite Ms. Karago, the Chair of your Media Development Committee, to perhaps make a few remarks.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And sorry, Susan, I was not overlooking you. She's directly, her committee, her sub-committee in the board is directly touched by this, has been involved in this. And please, Susan, give us a few remarks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, CEO. I'd also like to thank the PS, the Estaquemet, the representative. Also thanking the Honorable William Kisang for the support that we've gotten this far, and acknowledging all the other stakeholders, leaders, SGKUJ, Eric Odor, there's Amwik represented by Maslin Obala, and just saying thank you, all of you, for making time for this very important undertaking. And just to say that this, what's happening today directly falls under the committee that I head, which is the Training and Media Development Committee at the Media Council. And also liking to highlight and appreciate my team members in the committee who are Patience Nyange, Tabitha Mutemi, Mr. Gwaro Garo, and Rosaline Obala, who have also been quite part of this initiative. And the Secretariat also working directly with Christine Goku and Victor Bure. We've really put in a lot to just ensure that this day and initiative is successful. And for this day to actually, for us to get to where we are right now, it's taken quite some input. And we'd like to thank the Honorable Kisang for holding our hand and representing us fully at Parliament, enabling us to get the funds that we will now be dispersing, and also the support of the PS for the initiative. This initiative is quite important because the industry has been largely affected in terms of revenue, in terms of the ability and mobility of journalists to undertake their day-to-day activities in the news gathering and processing and the final generation. And they
Okay, Susan, we can't. There might be an issue with your connection, Susan.
We've seen what has happened in quite a number of media houses following the decline in revenue. Can you hear me now? Sorry, is that okay now?
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Am I back?
Go ahead. Yeah, yes, you are, Madam Karago. You're back.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, sorry. So I was just saying the intervention is quite timely, following a number of things that the media industry is facing currently due to the revenue drop, which has led to a number of interventions by specific media houses. Some have slashed salaries by half. Others have had to probably reduce people on their payroll. So this initiative is quite timely. And we really appreciate and hope that once the funds are dispersed, they'll actually really have an impact in the industry as in the whole. We had an opportunity to just, as a board, we had an opportunity to go around and just see how effective and how effective the Media Council press cards are, and the extent to which the COVID-19 pandemic has affected different media houses. And truly, the industry has been hit large. And we hope that, this the pandemic can be resolved quite quick. But before that is done, then we saw an opportunity to step in. And so we're believing that once these funds are received by the different media houses or the grants by the specific journalists, that they'll actually go to intervening in more than the expected ways. I'd like to thank the committee, the Training and Development Committee members, the chairman and the CEO and the secretariat at large for the time and the effort that you've put in to make this day a success. And just to say that the team, the media training team, and the board at large is committed to continue making a difference in the industry. And we hope that as different experiences come your way, that you'll be able to share with us and such that we can see where we will be able to intervene and make a difference in different ways that we can be able to support. We have had quite a number of interventions, from monitoring to counseling to physically visiting journalists that have been affected by probably attacks from the police. So any way that we can intervene, we'd like to reiterate that we will always keep doing that. And just thanking each and every person who makes the industry what it is, even the journalists themselves for bracing the hard environment that they're working in right now. And just saying that we have your back and we'll always be here. I think that's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Karago.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for capturing some of the details of the work we've been doing, apart from what we are launching here today. You've really enumerated well some of the things we've been doing on the ground, which speak of the experiences that journalists are going through. So again, we say it's one of our greatest days intervening during this COVID crisis. So Mheshimiwa Kisang, please take the floor now and speak to us. Honorable Kisang.
I think I've been informed that he's having problems connecting. So I think maybe as we try to sort out his connection issue, because I don't think he's I think he's in the village, in his constituency. So we'll try and sort that out. But meanwhile, allow me to, maybe Mr. Chairman, you can invite Mr. Vitalis Ragul, the Acting Director of Information.
Welcome, Honorable Director from the Ministry. Please take the floor.
Mr. Ragul.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Ragul, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Moderator. Thank you very much, Bwana Chairman. First of all, allow me to begin by just thanking you for welcoming me to this very important event. And from the outset, I wish to thank the Media Council of Kenya for coming up with this intervention, which, as I can see, fits in very well with its mandate of media development in the country.
Mr. Ragul, if you may allow me, might you move a bit far from your computer? We cannot see your full face, sir.
All right.
Yeah, that's better. If you can lower your screen a bit, then we'll see more of you than the ceiling.
Can you see me now?
That's much better. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. So again, I just want to thank you for welcoming me to this very important event. And from the outset, I wish to thank the Media Council of Kenya for welcoming me really for this to this event. And I also wish to thank the Media Council for coming up with this intervention, which fits in very well with its mandate of media development in the country. Now, there's no doubt that the world is currently facing a crisis of monumental proportions. This has been brought about by the novel coronavirus that is causing this disease that we know calling COVID-19. Now, like the rest of the world, we are grappling with how we can contain the spread of this disease in this country. And while at it, we are also creating awareness about this disease by continuously giving updates and reminding Kenyans to cooperate and adhere to the new normal, which is primarily about trying to see how we can adhere to the Ministry of Health prescribed guidelines on preventing the spread of COVID-19. Allow me to point out that as a government, we have designed a crisis communication strategy that we are currently implementing. Now, this strategy is based on 5 pillars: resolve, resilience, return, reimagination, and reform. And these stages span the crisis as we face it today, but we are also anticipating that these pillars will move us to the next normal that is the one that will emerge after the COVID-19 has been controlled. Just like as the chairman observed, we are looking to a situation where this COVID-19 at some point will have to be controlled, it will be over with, and we shall push it behind us. And then we are saying that what happens next after that? We are saying that we shall continue as a country, and we shall be back on our toes in terms of the economics, in terms of the health aspects, and all shall be well. We believe so. Now, there's no doubt that COVID-19 outbreak is a complex crisis that is made up of multiple triggers. And we are saying here, we are talking about the issues of health, issues of policy, issues of the economy, which have all been impacted. And as such, as a government, we have deliberately tailored our communications to the space where the Kenyan public is experiencing the greatest challenge in terms of communications. These messages are helping Kenyans greatly as we continue to roll them out in various ways with the updates at Afia House, with the many ads you're putting out in the media. We are hoping that really these updates are reaching to the Kenyans, and Kenyans are adhering to whatever guidelines that we are trying to put out to them. Now, the thrust of the communication strategy, the crisis communication strategy that we've developed is hinged on the following. Number one, we just want to communicate clearly, and we want to do it simply and frequently, focusing on what the people want to know and what they need. In other words, we are talking about their information needs. What do the Kenyans want to know? What do they want to hear? Number two, we are also focusing on facts and figures, and we are very transparent. In other words, we'll give you the facts and figures as Kenyans without hiding anything from you, and from it you can actually be able to see the extent to which this pandemic is with us, and also try to see how we can, of course, try to bring down the numbers to flatten the curve. Number three, we are also celebrating the positives that we can see. And we are talking about the recoveries, we are talking about the champions, especially the frontline health workers, and also those who are involved in this fight, including the media. We are also trying to see how we can help Kenyans to help Kenyans. We have seen a lot of donations that have come from the various stakeholders, and we are very happy that more are still coming. And this is how Kenyans are rising up to the occasion to help Kenyans. Now, we're also setting very clear goals and walking the talk. When we say we wear masks, we are wearing masks in public places. When we say we are going to foster dialogue among Kenyans, we are allowing dialogues, and we are allowing it even through various media channels. Now, coming to the matter that has brought us here today, I wish to say that for us as a government, to win this war comprehensively, we need to forge collaborations with all the stakeholders. And one of the key stakeholders in this is the media. The media is so key. We call it an intervening public in communication lexicon. And we believe that as we continue to work with the media, we are going to drive this communication down to the grassroots. And here is where, again, I want to thank Media Council, because when you talk about community radios are very key for purposes of ensuring that Kenyans at the grassroots know really what is going on with regards to the war against COVID-19. Because when we are able to use them to the extent that they are able then to reach out to the people who live in the villages, then I think the message is sinking. And therefore, this support that we are seeing, that the Media Council, the support for the community radios, we are seeing it as something that will really help us. And so too is the training which the Media Council has talked about. We expect you to go out there and train these community radio people so that they can be more effective in ensuring that this message reaches down to the grassroots. And so as we continue with this war, we hope that this kind of intervention by the Media Council of Kenya will greatly help us insofar as flattening the curve is concerned. So let me just end there without taking too much of your time, because we are all excited by this initiative, and we hope that going forward, we are going to see more Kenyans become more aware, more enlightened, and therefore adhering to the Ministry of Health set guidelines on preventing COVID-19. So once again, Media Council of Kenya, thank you very much for this privilege and opportunity, but thank you so much for this initiative that we see really will go a long way in helping the Kenyan public really be able to understand this disease better, and to be able then to take those preventive measures that will help us be able to fight this battle and win it at the end of the day. So once again, thank you very much. And as we continue, please let's just remember that those guidelines are there to help us, are there to help Kenyans, so that we are able to adhere to the so-called new normal in a way that will not be so disruptive to our activity. So thank you very much once again, and God bless you.
Mr. Ragul, thank you very much for your words. I'm sure they're quite encouraging here at the Media Council. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. And do please pass our regards to Madame PS and tell her thank you for her support. At this point, I want to also acknowledge a few other people who will be respondents in this meeting. Some of the would-be beneficiaries from the media sector. We want to invite them to say a few words, 3 to 5 minutes of words in terms of what kind of impact they envision this particular grant bringing to them. And first amongst them, I'm going to ask Ms. Merceline Nyambala, who is the CEO of the Association of Media Women in Kenya. Ms. Nyambala, I'm going to ask you to perhaps to make your comments. Thank you, Ms. Nyambala.
Thank you very much, all here. I want to say good afternoon to everybody. I want to acknowledge my colleagues. I acknowledge the MCK chairman, Maina Miruri, the CEO Moyo, board representative Susan Kirago, my colleagues, KUJ, Secretary General Eric Odwor, KCOMNET, CEO Tom Boya, Joel Karanja, representative from the Parliamentary Committee Kisang, and also the PS in absentia, and everybody, the KCA chairman, Lo Janak, and everybody else. Thank you so much for this opportunity. As Association of Media Women in Kenya, we are already the beneficiaries of the first tranche. And I want to say that approximately about 10 members are already doing stories, interesting stories. But just to go back and say that we too have observed with a lot of concern the retrenchments and the salary cuts that have been taking place in our industry. And our engagement with members revealed that a lot of the journalists have been experiencing a lot of psychosocial stress resulting from general COVID-19 situations, but also work-related and fears around how they are going to survive. But I want to say that what this initiative and the initiative previously that are going a long way in giving hope. And I think a sense of hope is what many people need at a time like this. It was interesting to hear from Vitalis Omondi about the crisis communication strategy that is in place. And just to say that the salary cuts have impacted a lot on the media's role to play, that is of informing, advocacy, agenda setting. And the salary cuts and the retrenchments continue to be a threat to how information will move around in society, and that every audience, every Kenyan is reached, because we know that different Kenyans are consuming information differently. And therefore, I want to express our gratitude that these funds and the way that they are structured, that they are the involvement of different stakeholders and different avenues that we ourselves are employing, we feel that it will go a long way in helping us respond to this situation. Without going into details, I have seen that some of the stories that our members are pursuing include stories around the myths around the COVID, which I think would go a long way in busting some of the misinformation. Stories on GBV. We are looking at the informal settlements. We are looking at the resilience. We are looking at innovations. We are looking at impact on business. And therefore, in the next tranche that we received, where we were happy, a second tranche, we also want to produce an in-house publication around COVID. And so we feel we are grateful, and we continue to engage with different stakeholders, especially around the gender issues and how the gender dimensions of everything are brought out, and that we have women's voices and the GBV that is taking place in our environment. So I know that we are also partnering with a number of us here. Reporting, accountability, social justice, and training. So all this is adding up. And to say that for us, we targeted a lot of our journalists who are now freelancers, but very, very skilled as journalists, who are able to express interest and submit their stories and their writing. And therefore, they are able to write these stories for the mainstream media as well as for community radio stations. So thank you so much. We are so grateful, and we look forward to continuing more and more every day in helping us build resilience, in helping us pass through the COVID pandemic. And I agree with Maina Miruri and the views expressed here that after COVID-19, we should emerge. And I know that perhaps there is no after. So we are walking into the new norm, that soon we will walk into a stronger, better media because of the COVID crisis. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nyambala, for those comments. I've been informed that the Honorable Kisang is now online. Honorable Kisang, if you indeed are here, please do take the floor. Honorable Kisang? The Honorable Kisang, are you there? Okay, I think we'll proceed then until we manage to get him. I'll ask Mr. Tom Boyer, who is the coordinator of the Kenya Community Media Network, to perhaps give his reflections and reactions to this in 3 minutes, please. Mr. Boyer, the floor is yours. I guess we don't have Mr. Mboya either. The Honorable Kisang, I've been informed that you are online now. Honorable Kisang? The Honorable Kisang, are you there? Okay, we see Honorable Kisang. Okay, no, sorry. That's okay, no, that's Mr. Mboya. Mr. Mboya?
Yes.
All right. I hope you heard my introduction. How are you doing there?
I'm fine, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well. So
okay.
Just give us your reactions in 3 minutes, briefly, over this new initiative.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank the MCK team led by the chair, Mr. Miruri, and the CEO, Mr. Moyo, and also the Parliamentary Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation for this initiative. I think this is an initiative which was long overdue. If you look at the sector which I'm speaking which is a community media, and in this particular case, community radio station. These are stations which are faced with a lot of challenges. And coming with this COVID-19 pandemic, then you realize that most of them are even very much affected because one, some of them are operating in some small spaces and going by the guidelines in terms of social and physical distancing, it even becomes a nightmare for some of them to come together. And also you realize that most of them operate on a zero budget, literally without any money. These are community volunteers who are coming together to pursue a certain cause. And out of a gap, a vacuum which has been left by the communication or rather the other media players, which are the mainstream media. So these are community people who come together to address specific issues of interest to their communities. So when they cannot continue doing what they are supposed to do, then what it means is that the communities that they are serving are in a way marginalized in terms when it comes to communication. So I think this fund will go a long way in terms of helping these community radio stations in terms of operation. And I hope that we will be able to have some sustained source of funding for these community radio stations, because if you look in South Africa, for example, the government is giving out some money for the community radio stations annually, and even in the UK, because they are seen as public broadcasters. So they are complementing what the national public broadcasters are doing in those countries. And here in Kenya, they are surviving literally. And it will be good if we'll have a way that we can make this to be a permanent thing, so that every year we get some support for these community radio stations annually, because whatever they are doing is of public interest. In regard to I know there are community radio stations that were established by the Department of Meteorological Department. The Meteorological Department, they were called Radio Internet. They started as Radio Internet, but now they are FM radio stations. And they were started with the purpose of giving some early warnings. And now you see when in cases of floods and all that, like for instance in Bulala, we have got one. And to our surprise, you realize that even these stations which were started by the department are not receiving support from the ministry, the mother ministry. And in, I think in October last year, they got some communication from the ministry telling them that there was an intention to close or to shut them down. And I think it took the intervention of Kenya Community Media Network and other organizations within the sector to speak the ministry to let them still operate on. So going by that, then I think I'll just join what Marceline Nyambala said, that we need to work together as a sector and probably find a way, whether it's some policy advocacy that will ensure that we have some framework within the country that will enable and allow us to get some funding for this community radio. But this initiative is timely, and I think it's a thumbs up to MCK and the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ragul, for your comments and giving us a viewpoint from the grassroots.
This is Mboya. This is Mboya, not Ragul.
Sorry, Mboya, with some Mboya. My apologies. Okay. And now I have been reliably informed, and I can see with my very own two eyes that we have the Honorable Kisang online. Honorable Kisang, you're the man of the moment. We've been looking forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours, Mheshimiwa. Honorable Kisang, please unmute your microphone. Honorable Kisang. I can see you online. Call her. Kisang, where is he? We still seem to be having some connectivity problems for Honorable Kisang. Honorable Kisang, can you hear us? We can see you online. Well, I think we'll just have to proceed. I don't know. He's online, but we can't seem to reach him. Honorable Kisang? Honorable Kisang? The Honorable Kisang? We have lost him again. We've lost him again. Okay. 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 We'll move on to, as we still wait for the Honorable Kisang, we'll move on to Mr. Joel Karanja. Mr. Joel Karanja is the chairperson of the Digital Broadcasters. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Excellent. Sorry, we have Honorable Kisang. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Can you get me now?
We can get you. Please move your screen a bit lower. Please move your screen a bit lower. We need to see your face. That's it. A bit lower. We need to see your face. We're seeing the ceiling right now. We need to see you. No, we're seeing the ceiling. We need to see your face. That is much better, Honorable Kisang.
Oh, good.
On to Mr. Joel Karanja. Mr. Joel Karanja is the chairperson of the Digital Broadcasters. Mr. Excellent. Sorry, we have Honorable Kisang. Thank you. It's good to see you.
There is some noise on your end.
Please move your screen a bit lower. Just give us a moment, please. We need to see your face. That's it. A bit lower. We need to see your face.
Yes, like that. Are you able to sound?
Honorable Kisang, I think it's, yeah, please. I think you're okay now to go. But we can't see your face, Honorable Kisang. We can see your lovely suit, but we can't see your face.
You can see what? What can you see?
We can see your suit. It's a very nice, almost looks like cashmere, but we can't see your face.
Oh. And
that's better, sir. Excellent. Endelea Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
You want me to proceed on?
Yes, you can, Mheshimiwa. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, moderator. Basically, for those who don't know me, my name is Kemoi William Kisang, MD Marakwet West, and the chairman of the Departmental Committee of Communication, Information and Innovation of National Assembly. I'm serving now my second term, and I want to thank the Ministry of ICT and Media Council, because for the first time, now we are working very closely with the ministry, we are working closely with the sector to ensure we drive.
Can't hear, Honorable Kisang.
Ensure the sector basically has grown.
Honorable Kisang, something happened to your sound? Yeah, that's better.
Hello?
We just need to be a bit loud. That's better. We couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead now.
Okay. You know, the reason why, or maybe the reason why now we are here, it's because of what is happening in the country and across the world is COVID-19. And for a while now, we have said that, especially for those of us who are coming from rural constituencies, most of our people, most of our community members do not know what is happening, because what is happening now, we have the mainstream media speaking in English, Swahili, and there are those in the villages who do not understand these languages. So we want to thank the Ministry and the Media Council for this initiative, where they are supporting now our community radio stations, our community TV stations, so that they can talk in the language that our people understand in the villages, so that they know what is happening, especially about this disease, which is it is a new disease, and we have been told there is something that we now call new normal. Social distance, you have to wear a mask, you have to wash your hands regularly. Even areas where we don't have water, I don't know how we're going to wash our hands regularly, but at least we can keep the social distance. And it is important for our people to know what this pandemic is. So that is why we are aiming and giving thumbs up to Media Council and the ministry. At least the proposal came to our committee in National Assembly that we need to support our community radio stations and TV stations. And you know, as legislators, our role basically is legislation. We do representation and oversight, budget making process. The reason why we are here now, it is because the Ministry and Media Council came to the committee sometimes in May, and during supplementary 2, they requested for funds to support the community radio stations and TV stations. So we said, this is something very great. We went to the budget committee and appropriation, and we gave our proposals that we need to support our TV and radio stations in the villages. And they agreed with us, and we are happy now that the Media Council have been given the resources. And what we want to do and to hear now is those people in the rural areas getting to know about this pandemic so that we can see how we can minimize. You know, initially, people thought this was a rich man disease. It's no longer a rich man disease. We have now close to 40 counties that have already reported cases. So it is important that we ensure we disseminate information up to the grassroots so that the people come to know. In fact, as a committee, we are also ministry and also with the Media Council, so that going forward, until this pandemic is completed, we want to see how we continue promoting and supporting our local community radio and TV stations. So that is why we want to say thank you very much. Now we are talking to Anjiku, we are talking to Fatuma, we are talking to Chepkemoi across the village there, we are talking to Atieno. So this is what we need to do, and we need to continue to do. And I want to tell Media Council, you are doing a good job, courtesy of the ministry. So pongezi, and we want to see this continuing and also this engagement so that our people get educated.
Honorable Kisang, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I know you have to rush into another meeting, so perhaps maybe we can ask you a question or two. But
yeah, you can ask. You can ask.
Yes. Mheshimiwa, you said that you're the MP for Marakwet West. Tell us a bit. West, yes. Tell us a bit. What's the situation like there in terms of COVID and also in terms of now this kind of media grant? What difference do you see it making there, Mheshimiwa?
Marakwet, I was in Marakwet West about 2-3 weeks ago. It's actually, yeah, about a month now, and I'm intending to go there next week. On the ground, people are very serious. They fear this disease. And we have told them we should not fear. What we need to do is to know about it. And the challenges that I'm seeing across our rural constituencies is because of the fear. There is a chance. There's a chance that those who are coming from Nairobi and those who are not coming, who are not residing currently within their constituencies, we are telling them, please, let's accept our people. If there is anybody who has been who has become positive with COVID and they have been treated and they are already well, we should embrace them, because there is a likelihood that in the villages people will run away. In fact, I want to give you a scenario. About a month ago, there was someone from Marakwet West who was staying in Lake Even. When this person came home, people ran away from him. The boda riders refused to give him a ride. They wanted to pay because they thought if you are coming from Nairobi, you are coming from where there are already cases, they assume you are already positive. So that's why it is important that Media Council engage the community radio stations to tell our people this is just like an influenza. It's a disease. So long as we maintain social distance, we put on our face mask, we watch regularly, we should not condemn those who we believe or suspect that they could be positive. You know, somebody could be positive there in the village and they don't know. So it is but at least I'm happy so far. So far, especially in Marakwet West, we've not had any positive case. It's only that yesterday they reported one in Marakwet County, a driver who works in Kakamega or Kisumu. So he was tested there and they said he was positive. And at least he's been taken to the hospital. And we want to tell the community where this driver is coming from, he's still present. This is just a disease. It is not, as somebody said about a week ago, it is not a sexually transmitted disease. So let's not victimize those who have become positive. Otherwise, so far, people are very serious. They are washing hands. You go to our restaurants that are open, people are washing hands. They are giving distances. People have suspended weddings and engagements. So until further notice. So I hope this thing, we get rid of it as soon as possible. And everybody is really waiting to hear what the president is going to say tomorrow. Because people want to go, children, they want to go back to school. We want to open our economy. Our economy is really suffering. So, especially in the villages.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, Mheshimiwa, you're saying that one of the challenges that are there and that maybe we need to start preparing for is to try and educate people to avoid the stigma that seems to be creeping up regarding this, but also to give people, information that they can act on self-efficacy, that they can act on even as we hopefully open up the economy. Mheshimiwa, we want to thank you for joining us. If you can put your phone up a bit so we can see your face again. We know your taste in suits, so we'll be sure to keep an eye on that. But thank you so much.
And my beard, and my gray beard.
And your gray beard. Thank you so much for joining us. We thank you for your support, your continuous support to the Media Council, indeed the Ministry of ICT.
We will.
Pongezi sana, and continue the good work. We thank you for tuning in. I hope you can stay in a bit, but even if you don't, please do have a good day and continue the good work. Okay. Moving on, we're going to call upon Mr. Joel Karanja, I'd introduced you earlier on. Mr. Joel Karanja leads an association of digital broadcasters, and he's going to be giving us a few reactions on this fund and what kind of difference he sees it making. Mr. Karanja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me first start by commending Media Council for the great leadership that has portrayed during this time from the first time the first cases were reported in the country. I think Media Council took the first step to set up an emergency team of the media stakeholders to be able to see how we can be able to help the industry to navigate during this new normal. After that, we had the introduction of the special passes just to help the media industry to continue playing their critical role. We have had the grants which have been given to the journalists, and recently we had the grants that were given to the association just to help our members to continue doing the coverage. So I commend Media Council under the leadership of the chairman, Mr. Maina Mwiruri, and the CEO, Dr. Omoyo. You are doing a good job, and I think you have stood out during this time. And it is in the time of crisis that true leadership is portrayed, and Media Council has done very well. Now, coming to what we are dealing with right now, I think all of us are aware, just even before the COVID-19 pandemic came, the media industry has generally been struggling. dwindling revenue, a lot of challenges. We had layoff in some of the media houses, cutting the number of staff and all that. So the pandemic came just to compound a situation which was already dire across the media industry. And especially for us, the community radio and regional TV station, it has been very tough and challenging. I can say in the last 6 months, we have several of our members who had to cross and go off air because they could not sustain operations. And that's why this initiative comes in handy to be able to help those who are still remaining to be able to continue playing the critical role. And remembering about, I think, a year or two ago, not knowing that we'll be faced with the challenges that we are facing, Media Council also came up with the initiative of setting a Media Diversity Fund, which role was to address some of the critical issues that are affecting or cutting across the media industry, which we have not yet realized. And I think if that would have been functioning, it would have been helping a time like this. But to the initiative and the grants that are being given to the media houses, it will go a long way. We received the first grant as the association, which we were able to give to about 16 of our members. And from the report, I was able to submit to the Media Council. You can see the interesting stories because we are regional stations, vernacular stations, which are able to get in touch with the people and the masses at the grassroots. And we are able to tell the story in a language that they are able to understand. We are able to educate because the COVID-19 pandemic will not be won just in the city or in the urban center. It's by being able to provide information in a way that the public is able to understand and able to act on. Yesterday, I had a small talk. I just approached Border Line and I had a conversation with them. And you'll be amazed to realize that there are still people who don't believe that we have the pandemic in our midst. And it was very interesting. How will we be able to reach those people and be able to inform and make them aware so that they can be able to follow the protocol and the guidelines that have been issued by the ministry and by the government, is using those channels, the regional channels, the vernacular channels, which for a very long time they have been neglected and they are not able to sustain. So to me, this fund will go a long way to be able to help operations so that we don't have more of our members having to close shop and go off air because of not being able to sustain their operation. It will go a long way to continue creating awareness in the grassroots and speaking to the different constituents which are represented by the different channels that we have, which are spread across the country. So I commend Media Council for this and this partnership, and let it not just be during this time. Let's look forward to being able to empower, and by being able to empower these regional channels and stations, we'll be able to create more awareness, more education to the grassroots and make the change that we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karanja, for those words. Indeed, I believe you can count on the Media Council to continue working with your association and others for the sake of media development. One of our other respondents is Mr. Eric Odwor. Mr. Eric Odwor is the Secretary General of the Kenyan Union of Journalists. And I believe, Mr. Odwor, as a trade unionist, I think you have a lot to say here in terms of the recent layoffs and how you see this particular initiative impacting that at the grassroots. Mr. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Paul, for this opportunity to enable me to speak about a few issues here that will help the industry in terms of trying to deal with the impact of COVID-19. And rightly, as you've said, COVID-19 has actually had a severe impact on journalists who are working for different media houses, both from, we are talking about the community stations, and also the main players in the industry. And if you see what has happened in the recent past, all the key players in the industry actually have been forced, number one, to enforce pay cuts.
Mr. Dor, we are losing you.
You are losing me?
Mr. Dor?
You can hear me? You can hear me?
We're losing you.
Hello, you can hear me?
That's much better. We can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I was saying that different media houses have enforced pay cuts, and we've also seen at least 2 major media houses have given notice for redundancies. That means that a number of journalists are going to lose their jobs. And we've also seen one of the major media houses actually also giving profit warning. So definitely it means that that is going to have a huge impact on the livelihoods of journalists who rely on this as work. So I would say that this is very important fund that is going to help especially community stations that are based in counties, because these stations are actually acknowledged by the law. If you look at the County Government Act, actually says that the media is going to be used as an accelerator of development in counties, and therefore any neglect actually is going to have a huge impact on how county governments are actually operating. So as a way forward, we believe that this fund actually should be made permanent. And under Kenya Media Sector Working Group, we developed modalities that will enable us to develop Media Diversity Fund so that it can continuously help the growth of journalism, not actually for profit making, but definitely just looking at how this can help in terms of media development and especially growth of journalism, so that journalism, which we know actually is a practice for the common good of the society, cannot be left to the market forces of profit making like we've seen. And I think this is a wake-up call now to even to the government that we must find solutions to this problem by making the Media Diversity Fund becoming a reality, and now speeding up the process up to where we had left it. I would also propose that we also think about how are we going to even to cushion the main players in the industry, because like the chair had said, that if we do not have an industry, the Media Council must also cease to operate, because you will not have an industry to regulate. So that means as we also look at the survival of community radio stations and TV stations, we must also look at how are we going to cushion the main stream media so that they also do not collapse. If you see what is happening and the profit warnings that have been given and the redundancies notices that have been given, it means that we are going to lose more journalists. And if we lose more journalists, then that's going to affect the quality of work in the industry. So the government was a key player here, and we know there will be this push for the government to release some of the funds that the government owes the media, so that this can actually help in terms of keeping them afloat as we look at post-COVID-19. And as the government also looks at supporting other sectors through stimulus package, we believe this will also be extended to the media so that we're able to have a conversation on how post-COVID-19 is going to be like in the media industry, so that we do not lose more journalists to the impact of COVID-19. And finally, as we look at various ways of funding these initiatives, we will also implore the government to start thinking about how we are going to get some of a share of advertising revenue that is going to Silicon Valley companies, so that that money can also be plowed back here so that it can help in media development work. Because there is no way we are going to get this money if we do not also look at various beneficiaries of journalist work, how that can also be helped to develop media in Kenya. Thank you so much, MCK, and we believe that this fund will go a long way in terms of developing good journalism in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Dor, for giving us a very broad understanding of the media sustainability issue and the different options that exist there for the Media Council and indeed the entire media sector, and looking at the Media Diversity Fund and also talking about the receipts payable from the Government Advertising Agency. So with that now, I want to, in the interest of gender balance, and given that we didn't get to have the PS come here, I would like to call on one of my colleagues, Ms. Christine Guku, who is responsible for our training programs. If you notice earlier on, Mr. Bwire mentioned that one of the big factors that we're doing with this is we're also doing some capacity development. So I'd like to have Christine perhaps say a few words, maybe about 2-3 minutes, just say the training approach we're taking in regards to this initiative. Ms. Nguku, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Paul. I'm very excited to sit in this forum and to actually share with you some of the things that we are doing as the council in terms of building the capacity of journalists at this time. We have found ourselves as the regulator in an interesting situation where journalists are dealing with something completely unprecedented and one which they did not even anticipate, let alone even being trained on how to cover it. We've been trained and been taught in school, and even had experiences of covering events that are adverse, bomb blasts, floods, those kinds of activities. However, that has not prepared us for covering things like a pandemic. And so to speak, a pandemic is a very big event activity which is continuous and has very many uncertainties. It has many unknowns. And, journalists being the people who document what's going on, who talk about people's views, who bring about knowledge and information, it becomes very difficult. And so for us, finding ourselves advising journalists and talking to them and guiding them on how they can do some of these stories on COVID, it was quite a tall order, but we had to really think quickly and strategize. Some of the things that we have been able to do is we have done online training on the spot for people who are covering COVID to know what are some of the story angles they can explore, what are the issues that need to be raised in terms of reporting on the COVID, and also sharing information and being people who shape opinion about even the disease because of the way we write about it as journalists. But at the same time, we've also had to respond to the needs of the journalists themselves. Covering COVID is quite scary. At a personal level, as a journalist, you feel scared. You do not know whether you're exposing yourself when you go to places where there is a high risk of you contracting the disease because you're covering the story and you have to go to the scene sometimes. Other times, you also find yourself in a situation where you're not sure about how safe yourself you are, and so as a journalist, it even brings trauma because you're worried about yourself. You're also worried about being out there and coming back to your family. Are you also exposing your family? And so it's been it's been quite traumatizing. It's been the kind of situation where journalists actually also need some psychosocial support. And so the Media Council has come up with a program where journalists who go through that kind of psychosocial issues and they need some support in terms of how to mitigate it at a personal level, all they need to do is just send an email or call the Media Council and say they need somebody to do some counseling with them. They need somebody to talk them through, somebody to even debrief because of the experience that they're going through. We've also developed modules for training journalists on how to cover COVID as a pandemic, not as a disease which is touch and go. It's here now and then it's gone tomorrow. But we've developed a program which actually meets their need for knowing and having some better skills of how to cover a disease such as COVID. At the same time, we have developed some programs where we meet the needs of journalists to reach certain places, to conduct interviews, and to even file their stories. At a time like now, when media houses are having such hard financial times, some of the journalists are finding themselves in a situation where they may not get sufficient pay, or their pays are cut, or they don't even get the facilities and resources to be able to do their work. So the Media Council of Kenya has come up with a program where people apply for grants, especially for reporting on public health. We have already covered a whole 100 journalists spread across the country: Marsabit, Moyale, Western Coast, Southern Kenya. And these have been actually applicants coming from vernacular stations, coming from county-based stations, and up to and including mainstream media reporters, from Standard, Nation, People Daily, and even those who are online. And so we have supported them with small grants where they go and they do a story. But over and above them applying for the grant, we've also given them a mentor, a senior editor who can help them to explore their story in the most professional way, to cover all the angles of the story. And this has been actually a learning experience for them. So it's not just giving them support and telling them go out there and just do a story, but now they have learned a few more tricks, a few more better ways of doing their stories because of the grant. They have now had access to mentors, and this is something that we intend to continue, them having access to mentors who can train them and who can show them the best way to approach stories, whether they are public health or not. But for now, because of the main issue that we are dealing with, we have concentrated more on health and public health. And so it's really encouraging. Beginning of this week, we just announced the next rollout of grants for another possibly 100. And so we are encouraging every person on this platform to look out for it. It's on our social media, it's on the Media Council website. It's also on the social media groups, like the WhatsApp groups for journalists, for media stakeholders, and so on. Share that widely so that people can apply for this grant, because the grant then is going to help them not just to do a story, but also to sharpen their skills of journalism. At the same time, we are also ensuring that they do follow the code of conduct, because when you're reporting a story like COVID, it is very easy for you to violate without sometimes even knowing, issues of privacy, issues of confidentiality. Remember, this is medical health that we are reporting on. And so sometimes you may actually just slip. So we keep on reminding journalists about the code of ethics and the code of conduct so that they remain within the boundaries of the code of conduct and practice of journalism as they do their stories. So it's one of those things we have had to respond to very fast and to strategize very quickly so that we can meet the needs of the journalists and keep information flowing, keep our audiences well informed and informed with authentic information, information that is clear, information that is actually factual. So for this, I actually want to say thank you very much to all of you who are participating, our partners in the different media organizations and associations. We are really glad that you are actually participating in this, and it is helping us to know how best to support journalists and how to even proceed after COVID. There are lessons we are picking from COVID which we want to carry on into the future. The aspect of mentoring is one that we have actually realized is a big need. So for this, I want to say thank you very much to everyone who has participated in this. We feel very honored to have been the ones launching this activity and this grant for the various media outfits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine. I know I called you at the last minute. I just wanted to, I know we've got about 4 minutes left, but we may extend just by 5 or 10 minutes just to take a few questions. But before we do that, I'd like to call on one of my other colleagues, Ms. Dina Ondari. Ms. Dina Ondari is the accreditation and compliance manager here, but also looks after the safety of journalists. Ms. Ondari, you can say a few words.
Thank you so much, Paul. I really didn't expect to make remarks at this moment, but thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad that this is happening today because, as we understand, this grant goes a long way in safeguarding the independence of media when we are talking about financial independence and the press freedom, and also ensuring that journalists can focus on producing content, quality content, and professionalism. So it's a good thing we are having it today. I'll just go to highlight the other issues that we have addressed as a council since COVID-19 started. One of those issues is the issue of safety, physical safety, and it's important to note that the COVID-19 situation has made the working environment for journalists very difficult. It has really worsened the situation, especially at a time when we are talking about increased attacks against journalists rather. So during this COVID-19 period, we have seen an increase in attacks, and this really has had an impact on the way in which journalists work. And from our different interventions, which includes tours around counties and radio stations, we have listened to the voices of journalists who have told us that the environment has really become difficult for them. And from time to time, we have intervened by providing PPEs, for example. We have listened to their challenges, and one of the biggest one was the issue of salaries and cost cutting. And so they are working with fears that they might not even be able to access their workplaces the following day. So, and another issue I'd like to highlight that we have been told by journalists is the issue of insecurity, because despite the fact that we have given them social media passes and press cards to access various places, it has come to our attention that journalists are feeling threatened because they are not able to access their places of work. We have a case in Kisumu of a journalist who is hospitalized. They were attacked while they were heading to work in Kisumu. Linus Ombima of Radio Ramenyu. He's hospitalized in Kisumu, but he was attacked in Rongo, Migori County, where the station is based. And this goes to show how journalism is encountering more and more challenges every day, because initially we had been dealing with reports of police making it difficult for journalists to access their places of work, but now it is becoming a whole issue of insecurity. So every day what I'm saying is that the council is working hard, burning the midnight oil, so to speak, to ensure that the environment in which journalists work in, whether physical, psychological, or any other way, is being made a bit favorable, and we are working to see that we improve these strategies of intervention as we move on. So thank you so much, Paul, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dina, for being such a sport. I know I caught you off guard, but we couldn't do without your input in this meeting. Thank you, Dina. We will now take questions from anybody who's on the call, or even through chat. We'll just take them for about 5 to 10 minutes, so that we can, we're not over time. We've just hit the 1 o'clock, but maybe we can just extend by 5 minutes so we can hear from some of the stakeholders out here. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I will prompt a few people to ask a few questions, and then we can call it a day. Any questions? If there are no questions, let me read some of the comments that have come through. Miss Betty Ndwiga, thank you for your comments. Betty says this is a good move and will help in reaching out to the local Mwananchi and help them understand about COVID-19. We very much appreciate MCK. The initiative was very timely. Thank you, Betty. Victor Ongwena says the Media Council has done a great job in recognizing journalists from across the country in regards to training, mentorship, and grants. Thank you very much, Victor. Rehema Osanya says that let the government make maximum use of community radios. I think it is long overdue. And George Mamodo says in many instances, the government has left out community radio stations, yet these are close to grassroots populations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, seeing that there are no questions coming in, or Josephat Mushiri says, any trainings on COVID-19, especially in Turkana? Are there any trainings on COVID-19, especially in Turkana? And then Juma Namlola says, I'm sorry I joined a little late. This is a good initiative. I would like to know how many media houses are targeted. Victor Wire, if you're on the call, I think those two questions are down your avenue. Victor? No problem, Victor. They had asked, somebody's asking if there's any training for COVID-19 in Turkana. And Juma is asking how many media houses were targeted. I think he joined a bit late. And yes, so any trainings in Turkana? And
yes, Yes, thanks, Paul. As we mentioned, it will not be specifically for Turkana, but we will do weekly training, online training on public health reporting in general and COVID-19 specifically. So yes, from next week, we will be sharing details of the webinars that we'll be doing on public health and COVID-specific training. So we will be alerting them. The other thing, the radio stations, so far is 129 radio stations, but that have so far been reached out. Obviously, in Kenya, the number in case we have 200 radio stations, but some of them are paper radio, some of them are offline. So we're also making those deliberate attempts to reach them out. But so far, we have made contacts to 129 radio stations in 45 counties.
So, sorry, Victor, Betty Dwiga just asked, my question is, will we be trained first or we start recording the information immediately?
Thanks, Paul. Betty, I told her, and we have talked even yesterday. We talked that as we award this, there will be a TOR. There will be terms of reference of what you are expected to do. As we issue out now the award letter to all the radio stations and TV that got the grant, there will be a TOR of what is expected of them.
Thank you, Victor. I'll just read a few more comments and then I will call it a day. Charles Odori says, thanks to MCK for supporting local media stations. He's from Lubao FM in Kakamega. Samuel Maura says, good move, MCK. And Thomas Mukoya, I believe from Reuters, says, photojournalists are following the conversation and welcome the MCK programs plus support during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Thomas. Christine Guku says, Mushiri, be on the lookout for announcements of the online trainings. You are likely to win a webinar group, likely to join a webinar group and learn. And Victor, Betty says, thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to go too much over time. We try to be sticklers for time here. So,
maybe if I have a question, I don't know if I can be given a chance. Just the last question, kindly.
Please introduce yourself. It's just because you're smiling that we're going to allow you.
My name is Fred Gombe. Fred is in charge of administration in Namlolwe. I also joined late, but I have one question. I just want to know if there is any follow-up that has been done to media houses apart from the letter that was sent to media houses on this.
Okay, Victor, you've got the question.
Thanks, Paul. I think we have repeatedly told that we sent a letter to the media, which we asked them to send to us those who are willing and not willing. Then next, obviously, we'll get back to those who have qualified with more information. And I've just mentioned to Betty, Fred, that we'll send out a letter with the TORs. So I don't know what is difficult. But we have said we'll go back to all the media houses that have responded because there are those who are not interested. So the first letter was letter of interest. Are you interested? So once you responded to the Media Council, they will now get back to you to tell you the terms of reference, the issue of payment. But remember what we said, these are not advertisements. So we don't expect proposals or red cards. We are not running adverts. So we will give proper terms of reference of what is expected from each of the people who will get the grant on the award letter. There will be a supervisor. There are people who will be supervising you so that you don't give us empty tapes. So every week you will be filing a media monitoring report to us and to the supervisor, which then at the end of the project will be compiled and sent back to government that gave the money.
Okay, thank you, Victor.
Okay, Fred, thank you. You should be on TV, not on radio, seeing with that smile. But thank you, Fred, for your question. Joseph Mushiri says, thanks, great team. Yes, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'd like to bring this virtual press conference to an end. We can keep the conversation going on our Twitter handle at Media Council K, hashtag Media MCK Media Grants KE. Please keep the conversation going. We'll be there and available to answer your questions. We want to thank you very much for your time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, also allow me to thank my colleagues here at the Secretariat for an excellent job done. The communications team, Laureen and Stella, thank you for your support. Simon on ICT, Jacob on social media. Thank you for your excellent work. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Outlined even extrajudicial cases